welcome back. Nice to see a few faces back in the tent. I've seen a few of you here at the cooking demos, even doing cooking demonstrations. Some of you too, a few of you here. So welcome back this afternoon. It's Sunday. Yes, we're Sunday already. Sunday afternoon this is actually our first cooking show today. We've had a beautiful panel. We had our VIP breakfast here this morning. Did anyone attend the breakfast? Oh, no. Make sure next year you get onto that. It's amazing. So we had a beautiful panel there and food tips. So that was really good. We had our panel here earlier this morning, and now we're on to cooking. So I'm sure all of you, has anyone eaten anything at the Vegan Festival yet today? Yes? Okay, silly question. I got looks at what? What are you asking me? So thank you so much for coming along. We are excited again to have Zach Bird back on stage. Hey! And
yeah!
he,
Round of applause for me.
he is even more excited than I am because he doesn't have to do this demo by himself. He's got Andrew Spud-Fit Taylor with him. So I'm going to give a really short introduction. I'm going to read it. Andrew Spud-Fit Taylor's story went viral when he ate only potatoes for an entire year in an attempt to deal with his food addiction. So at first, most people thought he was crazy. Many people still do, apparently. I love potatoes. But over time, it proved to be a completely life-changing personal experiment that evolved into a movement that has helped many, many people regain health, lose weight, and release the shackles of food addiction. So to make potatoes into incredible vegan tastiness, Zach Bird is here to help you and Andrew out. So he creates all sorts of vegan food. You might have seen his total freak out demo yesterday where we made a face hugger creature, which was wonderful. So he really likes to push the boundaries. He likes to create sometimes healthy. It's healthy on this list. Easy anyway, and indulgent foods that are definitely a lot of fun and very nice to eat. So they will be doing a little show together today, and as you might guess, it will be all potatoes. Yeah. So I hope you love potatoes. I certainly do. Yes, there will be a little tasting at the end, a little reminder. All our stallholders, we all serve in compostable serving, compostable cutlery. So it's nothing plastic that you're eating with. They can all go in our compost bins. Everything is signed. Please help us to run this event like we've been doing for the last few years, as close to a zero waste event as possible. So we really appreciate if you throw everything in the compost bins, if you have a tasting or any of your purchased foods as well. All those serving dishes are all compostable. I must remind you all that you can download the recipes of all our cooking demonstrations from this weekend from the website. So the veganfestival.info, if you go to the website, there is a free cookbook, e-cookbook, even last year's and the previous year, I think, is still available on there as well. So that gives you lots of recipes to work with. So all the 3 recipes that we're doing today are on there as well. So make sure you go to the website, download that. And enough talking for me. I'm going to hand you over to Zach and Andrew, and they will figure out who's going to start with what. Here you go.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. This is actually my first ever cooking demonstration, so please be gentle with me. I'll do my best, and we'll see how we go. And thanks, Zach, for joining me as well, and adding some credibility to the cookness in this, because I'm not really a cook, but I do like to obviously eat healthy food, and I like to keep it pretty simple. And it's good to have you helping me. So
yeah, I'm getting totally out of my comfort zone because my recipe's like 2 ingredients, and I'm buying into the Andrew Spud-Fit Taylor way of cooking approach for today. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good. So yeah, we're going to do a couple of things today. We're going to do some mashed potato, which is could you hold up the furthest book? So my 2 recipes are from that book, which you can get afterwards if you want. And we're doing some mashed potato, and we're also going to do some potato waffles, which are both in there. And then Zach is going to do...
I'm going to do flatbread. I'm just going to add flour to potato and show you how to use mashed potato that's left over, if for whatever reason you have mashed potato left over, and how to make it into really lovely flatbread at the end. And then we've got some beautiful relishes from Spice Girls just down the road. So we'll be serving all of the cool potato crafts that we create today with those.
Yeah. So let's get to it. I've got some potatoes. Here's something I prepared earlier. I've got some potatoes here that are they're boiled, so we do that to turn it off.
Now, if you're wondering what potatoes we've chosen and why, we don't know because we just asked for the cheapest one. So there's nothing really fancy about it.
I often get questions from people. They think I've eaten only potatoes for a whole year. I must be an expert, a connoisseur of potatoes. But in all honesty, I just get whatever's cheapest, and it always works. So don't overthink things, folks. Just get whatever's cheapest, and it'll do the trick. I promise.
Well, the good thing about most potatoes in the supermarket is that they, even if you don't know the style, the variety, they've got little descriptors on the packets to say this is best for roasting or mashing. So if you do want to kind of have a bit of finesse to your choices, it's pretty easy to make.
Pretty easy, yeah. So these are ready to go. These were already cooked last night, and we've just heated them up. So we're ready to rock and roll. I don't have a strainer. I just turn the lid a little bit like that so there's a gap, and then drain it that way.
Now, Andrew, you became famous for eating potatoes for an entire year of your life, but it was more than just the potato. It's really about your food addiction. Do you want to just kind of tell everyone a little bit about that?
So for me, it was, I'll cut a long story short. Basically, I realized I was a food addict. And I had struggled with weight my whole life, and it led to me being severely clinically depressed and anxious, and it was a big problem for me. And I sort of put two and two together and realized that my problem was not with weight necessarily; it was the addiction was the problem. So I decided to come up with a way to treat the addiction, and it made sense to me that if an alcoholic should quit alcohol, a gambler should quit gambling, a smoker should quit smoking, then a food addict should quit food. So that was where the idea came from, and obviously you can't quit food, you've got to eat. So I wondered about how close I could get to actually quitting food. How many different foods could I quit? Maybe I could quit everything except one food, and that would be getting as close as possible to the abstinence model as I could get, and see if that would help deal with my food addiction issues. So I did that. I quit everything but potatoes. It wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing. I did a lot of research and figured out that potatoes were a healthy thing to do, and they would supply me with all the nutrition I needed, and then did it. I did that experiment, and I quit food, ate only potatoes for an entire year, and it totally changed my life. So, that's why I come to be here doing a weird cooking demo for you guys. So, yeah.
I think I learned it from you because I don't think a lot about the nutrition behind my food because I deep fry everything anyway. But I've always seen potatoes as sort of, people say they're just bland and starchy and sort of a filler food. And I've never sort of seen them as a source of nutrition.
That's right. Yeah.
And so when you were researching, you found that the potato actually has a lot of different nutrition. Obviously, you ate nothing but a year and you're still here.
Well, I was the same. I thought potatoes were just empty calories. So I didn't eat many potatoes because I was hugely overweight, a lot more than I am now. And I didn't eat potatoes because they're empty calories. And, but then I did this research, and when I had this idea, could I quit food except for one food, then I did a lot of this. I got a science degree myself, so it helped me to understand what's going on. It's not a nutrition science degree, but at least it helps me to understand how studies work and analyze data and all of that. And I spent a lot of time, spent 6 weeks researching, and to my surprise, potatoes was the obvious choice once I'd done that. So,
and obviously a lot comes down to how you prepare it. Because when I first heard of you, I was like, I could eat baked potato for a year, but I'm kind of envisioning it slathered in oil and crisped up, and like that's my way. But I guess a lot of it comes down to just stripping away the things like oils, and you use spices.
A little bit. Most of what I ate was plain boiled potatoes or baked potatoes, but I did occasionally add a little bit of flavour and do something interesting every now and then. But most
Friday night party,
a
little bit of pinch of salt.
Something like that. Yeah, but potatoes have a bad rep, and that's I think of them like they've become a garbage delivery vehicle, basically. So, if you think about a garbage truck, it's a beautiful piece of machinery. It's perfect. It's it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's like powerful, big, strong. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. Once you fill it with garbage, you don't want to be anywhere near it. And then potatoes are a little bit like that. They're perfect. They give you everything you need. They do a job perfectly. Once you fill them with oil and, cheese and bacon bits and sour cream and all this stuff.
And we really salt, like when I think of potato, I salt the hell out of it. And so obviously you cut a lot of salt out in your diet in this process as well?
A little. I still have salt, but not much. I just sprinkle a little bit on top at the end.
Not as aggressive as me.
But it's you know, if you get rid of all the junk out of that people typically have with potatoes, it becomes a super healthy food. And you know, potatoes get a bad rap, but it's not the potatoes' fault; it's the junk we serve with it. So, yeah, that's the way it goes. You wanted to take some of these potatoes out before I started, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd love to
let's
steal
do
some of
that,
your
yeah.
potatoes, please. Thank you. I'll just scoop it out.
Yeah.
Wunderbar. Does that leave you enough to play with?
Yeah. Take as much as you
Beautiful,
want.
thank
Very
you.
good.
Well, look,
Alright.
this demo is called Spud-Fit and Spud-Fat, so I guess I'll have to lean into the Spud-Fat thing. And
Yeah.
I love frying potatoes, and I've been doing lots of experimenting this week because so it's Heston Blumenthal who first came up with the triple cooked chip, which sort of changed the way that we make chips because he parboils them until they're trying to fall apart. That's really the trick to making a good chip. And then you fry it twice over to get it super crispy. And that's by far the best way that I've ever made home fries. We don't have the time for me to show you that today, but I just wanted to add a point for fatty potatoes over here on Spud-Fat side. But back to you, Andrew.
No, that's and I'm an ethical vegan first and foremost. I became vegan for the animals, and the health thing came much later on. So I don't have any problem at all with anyone who wants to eat potatoes deep fried or have them with vegan sour cream, vegan bacon bits, all of that. I got no problem with it whatsoever. It's just not something I do for myself. And yeah, so I'm happy to be sharing the stage with someone who has a sort of opposing view of eating. As long as you're not hurting animals, I'm happy with it.
And well, the thing is, like, I think it's a good message for separating the vegan diet from the vegan lifestyle. Because when I went vegan, I put on 35, 40 kilos. But I also lost 35, 40 kilos as a vegan. So I think it's important to kind of put out the message that it is possible to really be healthy or junky as a vegan. And there's so many different diets that you can employ under that umbrella.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Our opposing diet.
Right, let's mash these potatoes then. I'll get rid of this lid. So I'll keep it pretty simple. I better just, maybe I'll come over there and then I've got those ingredients there. Is that all right?
Sorry?
Can I take this spot?
All yours,
just
pal.
for the moment. So I don't really measure things that much. I just go by feel. And it's funny, when I made these cookbooks, I was like, okay, I need to make a recipe, and I don't really have recipes, so it was a funny experience. I don't know how you do it, but I basically got a bowl, and I imagined that there was potatoes in there, and then I added how much I would normally do, and then I put that into a measuring thing and figure out how much I use, and then I wrote down all the measurements, and then I actually made the stuff and went, no, that's not how I do it. So I had to do it again, and eventually got the measurements right. And anyway, I'm more comfortable now because there's potatoes in there. So a bit of soy milk, just I don't know, let's say 3.5 splashes, and bit of chicken stock. If you don't know, this Massel brand, it's whatever stock you get. It's a Massel brand. It's all vegan.
There's quite a few vegan-friendly animal-style stocks in Australia. In fact, more often than not. So you can kind of zhuzh up your dishes pretty easily by adding some of that in.
Yeah, so I use the chicken stock, and I have been abused online before for using chicken stock, even though it's vegan chicken stock. People don't like to figure out if what I'm doing is actually vegan before they abuse me, but that's okay.
You should send them to see some of my recipes. If they get pissed off at that, wait till they see my KFC drumstick with the bone.
Bit of nutritional yeast, so that's a punch.
Now, when I was researching nutritional yeast on Wikipedia, it says on Wikipedia that it's referred to as hippie dust, which I've never heard in my life, but I would love it if we could make that a thing. Just a sprinkle of hippie dust into your mashed potatoes.
Who's seen Donnie Brasco? There's a really cool movie called Donnie Brasco, and Al Pacino's in it. And there's a scene in it where he's cooking, and Donnie, what's his name? Johnny Depp plays Donnie Brasco, and they're cooking. And he says to Johnny Brasco's character, Donnie Brasco, he says, and we need a punch of salt. And he goes, don't you mean a pinch? He goes, no, I mean a punch. If I said a pinch, if I meant a pinch, I would have said a pinch. But I want a punch. And then just grab a fist. So that's what I've done, a punch of
salt.
Yeah, there you go. Bit of garlic powder. And that's, I don't know, a couple of shakes. And some onion powder as well.
So not only do you not put measurements in, you also make up all of the verbs for your
Pretty
recipes.
much,
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's all in the book though, in official measurements. I just can't remember what the measurements are because I made the recipe like 18 months ago, and naturally I haven't followed it once since I made it, apart from to test it the first time.
If you've got a copy of my ebook, there's measurements. They're all tested. I don't know. You can go either which way, but I like to put measurements in.
So, mashing time.
You're just using a classic masher here?
Oh yeah, it's your typical masher. Yep, it's.
So I'm mashing with a fork just because that's normally what a lot of people have at home.
Yep.
But if you were doing something like gnocchi, you definitely want to look for something like a potato ricer. So it might seem like a pretty dramatic thing to invest in for your kitchen, but if you want something like gnocchi, you don't want to mash it because you're really pressing all of the potato down and compressing it. Whereas a ricer makes sure it ensures it stays nice and fluffy. For something like gnocchi, that's really important. So here, this is absolutely fine. But if you are making dishes like that, do look into getting a potato ricer, or you can get 2 forks or a whisk and just kind of press through, but you're making sure you're not compressing everything down.
I knew there was a reason you were involved here. That was
You're
very
welcome.
good advice.
Give a
And
bit
look
of
at that,
value.
I've nailed it first time. That consistency's perfect. So yeah, round of applause, why not? So there you go, mash done. How easy is that? And you, contrary to popular belief, you have a complete meal right there. It'll supply everything you need. It's you don't have to have, all the 16 different vegetables that people like to do, and you can if you want, nothing wrong with it, but you can also just have a bowl of mash and you're done. It's pretty simple.
But if you did want 16 different vegetables, I can recommend, when I normally do this, when I'm not going for health consciousness, I would use a vegan butter instead of soy milk, just so it's nice and creamy. I usually roast my potatoes in the oven, and I'd roast a whole bulb of garlic as well, and then mince that through as well. If you really want to zhuzh it up and put some fresh herbs in there, it's always good.
Yep.
But there's so many ways to do this, and it all comes out good. As long as you've cooked the potato right, you don't have those awful little blobs of uncooked potato that you find in some mashes that haven't been executed correctly.
Yeah. Should we taste this? Are we supposed to taste this, or just leave it for
Do we have something to taste test with? Yeah.
You do it. Here you go.
All right. Reflexes.
Well done. That was
Thank you.
Ninja
I've
cooking.
been in the kitchen. I've dropped a lot of knives in my time. Delightful. I'd argue it didn't even need the butter I'd normally put in. Maybe I've learned something from you today.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I'm happy
Beautiful.
with
I will take that off your hands.
So we're handing over to you now.
To me now. Okay, fantastic. Well, I've just mashed my potato, and this recipe is absolutely foolproof because it's 50% potato, 50% flour. And that's really all you want to start to bring it together, and then you just start to add more flour as you go. So I'll show you how we do that. But my favorite thing to use is actually sweet potato. It makes the most beautiful flatbread on the planet. So you want 50% sweet potatoes, 50% flour. If you are trying to get specific with what kind of potato you use, a white potato makes really fluffy, almost impressively soft flatbread, whereas a red potato is a little bit sturdier and it creates something that has more structure to it. So if you're then going to use that flatbread for like a souvlaki or something that needs to hold something, I'd always pick a red potato. But today, we're using cheap potato. So we'll see how it all goes.
I've just realised that I've got ahead of myself. I need to put those potato waffles on.
Totally aware of that, but I thought I'd just go with the flow. Back to Andrew again.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. First time. Beginner's mistake.
Right.
So we've got a potato waffle maker here. This is very simple. So these potatoes are already pre-cooked. They've just been in the fridge overnight. So it's very simple. I'm just going to take a already cooked potato, cut it in half, and there's room for 4 on there, so I'll do the other one as well.
Now, when I was doing research, I was trying to find the source this morning. I couldn't find it, so no one here quote me on this. But I did read ages ago, and I've worked off this for a while, that if you salt the water that you're boiling the potato in, it actually encourages it to break apart much more quickly. So if you're doing something like a mash, that can be really useful. But if you're doing something like chips, you shouldn't salt that water just to encourage it all to stay together. So that's just a fun fact that I can't verify, but if it's true, you're welcome.
Yeah, well.
Back to Andrew.
I haven't heard that one, and but yeah, that's good. All right. I'm learning too. Learning while teaching. How good's that?
The trade of information. It's absolutely stunning.
So,
So when you say potato waffle, you really mean a waffled potato?
Exactly, yeah. You just literally, once they're cooked, you put them in like that, and this takes a little bit of strength. So you just close that, and then this handle's a bit wobbly, so I'm just going to push straight on top and just squash it down. You've got to put quite a lot of force on it. It's like you're doing CPR to the potatoes. And I'll leave it like that. Let's put this on top of it. There we go. All right.
So it's sort of like pressing tofu.
Yeah,
Sort
this
of that
is
kind of moment.
these drawers don't close.
They don't, but welcome to cooking demos,
Yeah,
Andrew.
there we go. All right, all right. Sorry. Now back to you.
Well, I've just discovered the art of using a waffle maker myself because I've been making things like pizza waffles and whatnot. But I usually make okonomiyaki, which is a Japanese pancake, which translate roughly to as you like. And it's primarily cabbage, and in Japan they use a grated yam to hold it all together. But I can't find that at the supermarket. So potato works just as well. But I've been making okonomiyaki waffles, which are really potato heavy as
Nice,
well.
yeah.
And my trick is, has everyone here tried rice paper bacon before? Brilliant. The great thing about it is that you can waffle the bacon into your okonomiyaki,
Ooh.
and you have this beautiful texture on top, and you just put the rice paper that's been marinated on top of whatever you're waffling, and it just injects it in, and it's absolutely stunning. So give that a shot before I publish that recipe in my upcoming book. So I probably shouldn't have brought that up.
Okay.
So what I'm doing here, I've just got a cup of flour because I have roughly a cup of potato. It's that simple, and I'm just going to add salt and pepper because you should always add these spices and salt and pepper as you go because it's far harder.
Salt has actually existed since the beginning of time. So
You got a keen eye. I bought this a week ago. I'm calling Foodland. That's not impressive. Now, when I do this we're going to risk it because that's the salt I've got. When I do this with
we'll just
sweet
get you all to
potato-
sign a disclaimer before you...
as long as the potatoes are fine, it should hold up.
Yeah.
When I'm making this with sweet potato, I love to put Nigella seeds in because they are just absolutely beautiful. But I actually found out a fun fact recently that, the old witches, when they would add an eye of newt to their potion, eye of newt means Nigella seeds. So the witches that were burned at the stake were burned for having great taste. And so I think not only should we use the word hippie dust, but we should now replace the word Nigella seed with eye of newt. So if you guys can carry that forward, I'd absolutely love it. So I'm just mixing up my off salt, pepper, and flour, and I'm just going to add half in to start with, and really just start to mix it all together and make sure it comes together. Now this is a little bit finicky because potato is not the perfect thing to make flatbread with. Am I on camera over here? Beautiful. And I'm sort of almost when I would make a short crust, how you want to cut butter into the flour. I'm just making sure as many little blobs of potato touch this flour because that's going to absorb all the extra moisture inside of the potato and start to make flatbread. It's the moisture in the potato that's going to try and ruin this as we go along, and that's what I'm fighting against.
So I'm curious about, to just change the topic a little bit, but I'm curious about what brought you to be vegan. How did that come about?
Well, I went vegetarian when I was like 12 because I watched a PETA video called Meat Your Meat, and I actually had a TV moment where I ran from my laptop to my freezer and I pulled out a slab of mince and I was like, never again. And then from there, I was vegetarian for years and I was sort of like an activist. Like I wrote a blog from the point of view of an angry cow who was slowly discovering the horrors of the meat industry and was making puns about it. But it was only when I was about 21 that someone actually asked me why I was vegetarian, and at no point had I ever had to justify it or have a conversation about it. And by the time I'd finished talking, I'd convinced myself to be vegan. And so that's why it's really important to be having conversations, because no one had actually been like, well, why are you vegetarian, and why is that important, and why is milk not important? And I literally couldn't justify it. And by the end of that conversation, I had adopted my vegan lifestyle, and I have done nothing but continue it since.
That's great. I like that you talked about, clap,
Yeah, clap for me being a vegan.
Yeah, and I follow your blog, and I most of the time don't cook the food, but because I'm trying to, most of the time it's like deep fried and stuff, which again I got no problem with it. It's just not for me. But I do like reading your blog just because I like the humour in it, and it's interesting that you were incorporating your puns as a 12-year-old. So I can tell it's been honed over a long period of time.
Well, the reason I try and I feel like there are so many brilliant vegans out there really focused on converting people to veganism, and it's very important. But I think we also need to look at veganism as a bit of like a consumer mechanic, where there's so many people trying to get us into the movement, but once we're in the movement, we're still just seeing slaughterhouse videos and things intending to convert us. So I think we do need someone putting out some jokes or making these community events where you can be a vegan for a long time and really enjoy it instead of just always be evangelizing. I think it should look like an inviting community where we're having fun and we're enjoying ourselves. So my jokes are really just me shit posting when I think of something I think is funny, but I do think things like that are really important, and we shouldn't kind of, and I'm not to discount anyone who's doing activism because that's so important, but I think we should also not discount people who are trying to create a career or open a restaurant or make their own cafe, or like this is what's going to make veganism sustainable and really enjoyable to do for the rest of our lives. Because in 40 years, I don't want to still be having the conversation about a slaughterhouse, because hopefully we've moved well beyond that and we're all having fun and enjoying our like plant-based, cruelty-free lifestyle.
For sure.
How is your waffle coming along?
Oh, it takes a while.
Is this cooking as well?
Yeah, well, I thought we'd, plastic fake plant garnish.
Garnish, beautiful. So if you can see there,
look at that, it's steaming off the plant.
You can see that the moisture of the potato is really absorbing all of this flour now, and that's really the art of making a flatbread. Flatbread can be made out of almost anything. It can be gluten-free. When I'm at home, I've got extra chickpea flour. I think it's about 50% chickpea flour and water mixed together makes a pancake, like a dosa. So there's a lot of really quick and easy ways of making flatbread. But I really like the potato and the sweet potato one, just because I've learned there's nutrition in those things now. So why do you ever engage with the sweet potato, or is it not on the menu?
Yes, no, I eat sweet potatoes often. Most of the time I eat white potatoes. I just prefer them, but I really love, especially my favourite kind of sweet potato. It's a Hawaiian one, I believe, and it's like a whitish grey sort of skin with purple in the middle. I don't know if anyone's seen those before, but
fancy.
Purple flesh in the middle, and they are great. They're like cheesecake, just. Yeah,
you've eaten nothing but potato for way too long if you reckon that tastes like a cheesecake, brother.
No, they're really good, yeah. But,
I think my favourite saying from New Zealand is they say sweet as a kumara, which is Maori for sweet potato.
Nice.
So another saying for us all to take away from this demo. So now that it's starting to come together, I want to get hands-on, and it's just like making a dough where I'm just pressing it all together. And as you can see, whenever I press it, these are the moist parts where the potato's moisture is still up for grabs, and that's what I'm trying to press the flour into, just to make sure it picks it all up. It might seem like you have too much flour, but if you keep pressing it, it's going to let you know that you could use a little bit more. But as we can see, it's starting to come together into a bit of a dough really quite quickly. So this is a really great way to use up leftover things and chuck together something semi-nutritious and a little impressive. And then it's really about rolling it out. Now, this is where I might screw it up. So we'll find out. You really want to make sure, especially for potato flatbread, that you are flouring as much as you can, because the potato moisture is going to keep revealing itself as we go. So I want to make sure I flour my rolling pin, as well as my chopping board and everywhere around it, because I've already made a mess.
So what is it about? Why do you like the sweet potato better than the normal potato?
It actually adds a little bit more flavor to it. I mean, I really enjoy the flavor of it's a very light potatoey flavor within the flatbread, but sweet potato has just got a bloody gorgeous flavor in it.
Enough.
And it, I think, complements things like, I would use this sort of flatbread for like curries and Indian food and things to scrape up stuff. So I think sweet potato is quite complementary to that.
And it really does look just like a normal kind of dough.
Yeah, it's just dough. It's just replacing the water and the oil with a whole potato.
Yeah, that's great.
So just pop that down.
I'm learning something about potato. This is amazing.
Who would have thunk? And then, as mentioned, so I'll show you. When I press that in, you can see it's sticky, and we don't want any of that. We definitely don't want that. So that's why we're going to be heavily flouring it as we go. You really want this rolling pin to have as much flour as you can on it. So I write down, if I've got a quarter cup of potato, I will use a quarter cup of flour, but then it'll be almost another quarter cup worth of flour as I'm rolling it. And there's a lot of diversity in the kinds of potatoes and in how much flour can absorb water depending on the temperature or the brand you've chosen. So don't use these recipes as Bible. You really want to make sure you're getting the texture right instead of just trusting what I've written. And I just
think
use
you're
my
a
hand to
trustworthy
rub.
guy.
Sorry?
I think you seem like a trustworthy guy.
Yeah, I'm semi-trustworthy. And I'm just rubbing that around, and that's creating a bit of an exterior surface for me.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well, I put the skins in just because they're good for you. Can you corroborate that?
Yeah, the skins are good. Yeah, there's a bit of extra fiber in the skins. There's some vitamins and minerals in the skins. But, you know, if you want to peel them as well, then that's okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with it.
Fair.
It's just up to you. So you could even, like, you could make a pizza base or something with
Yeah,
that as well,
100%
couldn't you?
you could.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I think what a lot of people need to consider is the way that you prepare your potato for a dish will heavily change what the final product is. So if you're boiling potatoes, it's not going to lose any moisture. Whereas if you bake a potato, I think I did the weights and science. I think I lost about 40% of total potato weight just by baking it. So that's going to take a lot less flour if I'm using a potato that's been mashed after baking. And those are all things to consider. So this could probably work as 2 flatbreads. So and it is about half a cup of each for each flatbread. And the good thing about this one, if it falls apart and screws up, you literally just ball it back together. Make sure you've floured it adequately. Would you mind turning on my fry pan? And it's just, and you can cover your ears for this, Andrew, it is important to cook it with oil. You definitely want to make sure you've got an oiled pan, or I like to use oil spray just to make sure I've covered the surface of the whole thing.
You had to hold the button down, just in case you're wondering. Don't tap it. Hold it down.
Now, while I'm doing this, do you want to explain? You've got a new book out with a lot of collaborators, including the person who's giving our cooking demo after us, Adam Guthrie. What an opportunity to plug, I think.
Well done. Thank you. Oh, you should be the one with the...
Yeah.
Wow,
I'll let you go first.
There's Adam over there, by the way. Wave, Adam. Adam's going to be doing the cooking demo after us. But, yeah, Adam's actually done a recipe that's in this book. So, yeah, you'll be able to learn from him, and then you'll be able to copy him. But yeah, basically this is I call it it's more than a cookbook to me. It's a lifestyle primer for whole food, plant-based, healthy eating. The recipes in there are great, but there's a lot of other writing in there. I actually haven't made any of the recipes. I did the recipes, a couple of recipes for this one, but I haven't done any recipes in this one. This is all contributed to by over 90 different people from the vegan, whole food, plant-based community. James Aspey's got one in it. Just leave it going. It's all good. And potatoes, you can cook them forever.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Adam's got a recipe. There's a few other people around here today that have done recipes, and there's people from all around the world. I didn't get asked,
if anyone's wondering.
Well, I'm trying to keep it, on the healthy side. So
I might have invited that. All right.
So. But yeah, it's also, there's a lot of writing in there from me about, and from a couple of other people as well, about how to incorporate healthy habits into your lifestyle and all those sorts of things. So I've actually only got 2 copies left. So if you want one, you better come and see me pretty quick after this, and you get one of the last 2 copies. And what is there? There's 4 more of these ones. So yeah, there you go. Thank you for the reminder. And you've got an ebook too, so you should also tell us about that.
Yeah, I do. Well, I will let you know. So this is what your flatbread should look like towards the end. Looks a lot like flatbread. If these edges aren't as rounded as I've done here, you definitely want to kind of fold them back in and keep rolling, because if you have those little blobby edges, they're going to cook quicker and create a bit of a weird flatbread as your final product. So as you can see, I'm flouring between every single step, and that's really the only important thing that you need to remember for this. I will talk about I do have an ebook on my website right now. You can get $2 off. The code is my name. If you can remember how to spell it, then you deserve $2 off. And it's mostly healthy recipes, to be honest, because I do catering for a living, and I unfortunately have to cook for people who aren't me. So I do know how to make healthy food, and some of my favorite recipes have ended up in there. But my signature recipe was sorry.
You'll be in my next book then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I wanted to kind of reclaim myself there. My signature recipe was CFC drumsticks, which is mock KFC, and when that came out, people were quite upset I'd go to such lengths to try and make realistic fake chicken. So I thought I'd clap back at that and make the most unrealistic meat I could. So if you do purchase the ebook, you'll find the no mortal eyes allowed section at the back, which is where I've made things like unicorn steak and mermaid tail, because it can't be called too realistic if it never existed in the first place. And I think these are the things that vegans should be doing to go, we'll make anything that we want vegan.
Yeah.
You can't make a unicorn tail non-vegan. That'd be absolutely disgusting. It's somewhat like my deep-fried banana blossoms.
A
if you're
unicorn
wondering what
wouldn't
it
want you to make a unicorn would choose for you to make a steak out of it rather than a cow, because it would rather give itself up than have the cow's life
100%,
taken.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
But then I also decided to kind of up you as well, and I made a deep-fried tarantula, because people say that tarantulas taste like chicken. So if I can make chicken, I can easily make a tarantula. And so if you were here yesterday, we celebrated Halloween by making. Have you seen the Alien movies? We made a face hugger from Alien. So that's the sort of thing that you can find in my book alongside healthy, nutritious dinner recipes. So do check that out as well. That's on my website. These are looking pretty good. Does that feel hot? Can you just put your hand on it?
Yep.
I'm joking. I was joking.
I'm
My
vegan.
God.
I'm bulletproof. Nothing can burn me.
This is your first
It's a-
demo,
it's
pal.
a-
And I'm just going to put a hearty spray of oil across the whole base there, which I probably should have done before I started heating it, but it is what it is. And that oil is showing me that it's starting to get nice and hot. This takes about 1 or 2 minutes each side until it just starts to brown up a little bit, and it's really that simple. So if you'd like to check on your waffles that were beeping at us earlier.
Got some that have been warming here. Yep. All right. Yeah, these are good, I reckon. I'm just going to turn this off. They're beeping. So one of the side effects of not using oil is that even on a non-stick thing, they occasionally stick a little bit. So you can see little bits are stuck up there, but it's still going to taste good. So, you know, we'll get over it.
Well, I use one of those griddle pan waffle irons that I found at the shop, and I bloody love it because you immediately run it underwater, and I've never spent more than 3 seconds cleaning it. So I actually find them way more effective than the big fancy electric ones that you can get.
There you go. So I just realised you guys can't see it, so there you go. They look pretty good. They look like waffles, right? Yeah, so they're pretty good, and yeah, we've got these Spice Girls sauces over there that you guys will be able to have a little taste of when we're done. But these are a really simple, easy thing to do. You can if you've got potatoes in the fridge, you just put them on, and then you have a chat with a mate, and then they're done. And it's easy.
We make now. That's nice. Beautiful. Well, so yours is almost done. Are we going to let people
I'll
try
put
your
those
mashed
ones on. I
potato?
forgot I had those.
Yeah,
ones.
we've got some more to go.
Yeah. So a bowl down
this
here.
is not visible. Is visible.
Oh, this one. We've already got it out.
So is there anything that someone would love to see done with potato? Because I know you've kind of in your cookbook encountered every recipe there is, but a potato-based version of it for the most part. Is that about right?
Pretty much, yeah. They're all there's dishes from all around the world. There's standard like loaded baked potatoes, and there's some curries, and there are cakes. There's a sweet potato chocolate cake in there.
Can I say something controversial?
Yeah.
I hate potato in things like curry. I hate potatoes in stews. I think it's robbing the potato of its final perfect form where it's nice and crispy. I feel like, you know, when you have like an Irish stew and it's just that like kind of boiled blob of potato in the middle with no flavor. Am I the only one that has this opinion? Because I'm seeing some very angry faces. All right. I retract my prior statement. Fine, whatever.
Zach, you're not going to like me. What about your flatbreads with no gluten?
Sorry?
The flatbread that you're making, but with like a gluten-free variety. I don't know, some different flours, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
In Melbourne, I work in plant-based meat development for one of the brands currently in Woolworths, Unreal Co. And they've just popped out what I would call cake mix for meat. So it's just a packet you pour water into, you can add whatever flavors or additions you want, you put it in the pan and it turns into whatever you want instantly. But that's gluten-free, and there's options that come without onion and garlic. So it's a really nice allergen-friendly product for people to keep in their pantry. If you've got someone vegan, gluten-free coming over, you can put together a really quick dinner. But I really love what they put on the back of the packet, which is all of the statistics about how much electricity and water you save by choosing something like that over meat. So I really think these are the cool products that will sit in the supermarket and really normalize cruelty-free and more environmentally friendly choices. So if you spot a packet in the health food aisle, do pick it up. I wrote the recipe on the back of the packet, so that one will work very well for you, and the rest is your fault if it doesn't go well.
That's amazing.
So this one, you can see, I'll bring it over here. It just starts to brown up in some spots, and that's what we're looking for, to just make sure the flour is fully cooked through. Obviously, the potato, if it doesn't get fully cooked through its potato, it'll be still perfect because we love it in all of the forms that it comes, and it's just really the flour that we want to ensure goes okay. You can substitute it with all-purpose gluten-free flour. The only thing I say is that it never browns up the same way, so it just might not have that final effect here, but it's still something that you can do if you are gluten-free.
Yeah,
and
that's
normally, because I'm just making this for myself, I'll just break off a bit and check that it's cooked through by taking a bite, but it's really about 1 or 2 minutes on each side. The oil is really important to have just because it picks up all of that dry flour on the outside, and if you don't have the oil, then that flour will start to burn separate from the rest of the flatbread. So that's sort of what brings everything together into one final product at the very end. So oil for this one specifically is a necessity.
Yeah, that looks amazing. I'm
Lamb,
blown
see,
away.
this one is,
There you go.
I can now reverse engineer. We are using white potatoes because this is beautifully, almost impossibly soft. So it's going to be stunning.
Excellent. Maybe, how long have we got left? Maybe we should do, okay, should we do some questions if anyone...
I'd love some questions.
Yeah.
I can't even do that with pancakes, man. I'm not doing it in a public environment with a camera over there. No comment. Well, I'll give it a red hot go with the second one. Once we've got something for sampling, I'll run that risk.
I think there's someone over
Yeah,
here.
I'll come and make the mic so everyone can hear.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi.
In your book, are any of the recipes are they using oil or no oil?
No, no oil in the
Any
book.
of them?
No, none of them. No, it's needed to be authentic to me and the way I eat. And I never eat oil, so I'm not going to taste that flatbread as nice as it looks. So I'm not going to have any. It looks great, and yeah, if you want to eat oil, I got no problem with that. It's just not what I do, and yeah, so it's all unprocessed, no oil, just whole plant foods, and every in this actually in both of them, but this one is. They're all potato-only recipes, just with maybe a little bit of herbs and spices and things like that. And this one is potatoes with other whole unprocessed plant foods. So yeah, there's all sorts in there. Yeah.
I'm just going to interrupt you.
Yep.
You can start to see it's starting
beautiful.
to puff up a little bit. So turning into like a proper flatbread where we're getting some bubbles happening, and that's what we're looking for, and that's what's going to indicate to us that we're coming to the end of our cooking process.
Yeah,
so
that looks great.
back to you.
Yeah.
Andrew,
It looks great, but you've just publicly stated you won't even have a bite. So whatever, mate.
One more question here, yeah.
Yeah.
so how much weight did you actually use on your Spud-Fit journey?
In 1 year, I lost 52 kilos, and then at the end of January of the year after, so that was, let's say, 13 months, I weighed myself again then, and I'd lost 55 kilos, and I haven't actually weighed myself since then because it's not really something that's important to me how much I weigh. It's more that I want to, like an alcoholic. The only thing that an alcoholic has to worry about is did they have a drink, and if they didn't, then that's good. And that's what they base their success on. So for me, if I've eaten well, I'm happy. To me, the weight's not important. I was only weighing myself during the year because I had so many, like it was viral media stuff, and I was getting asked all the time about how much weight I'd lost. So that's why I was doing it. It wasn't a weight loss experiment. It was a food addiction thing. And yeah, people don't ask me what I weigh anymore, so I don't weigh myself. Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Potatoes put weight on.
Yeah,
Is all I'm saying.
I'm yet to hear of thousands of people have tried. I don't know, probably more than hundreds of thousands of people have tried it in various forms, and I'm yet to hear from a single person who has been able to put weight on while eating only potatoes. It just doesn't happen. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Just in your book, I was wondering, do you touch on food addiction other than just the potato journey?
Yeah. There's a lot of information in there about food addiction in general, not just my own experience of doing only potatoes. There's a passage there from two different people who've written passages as well. One's Howard Jacobson, who wrote Proteinaholic and has a great podcast and talks a lot about. He's a well-known person in the plant-based world, and there's also a passage in there from a guy called Doug Lyle, who's a psychologist, and he talks a lot about food addiction as well. And then, of course, there's my own experiences with food addiction too. And yeah, so all the recipes in there are designed to be recipes that don't trigger the dopamine response in the brain. And because that's really a big part of where food addiction comes from. You eat certain foods that are highly calorically dense, and they'll trigger a dopamine response in your brain, and that makes you want more and more and more. So these are specific recipes that only have foods in them that will not trigger that dopamine response. Yeah.
Not that anyone asked, but the way I lost my weight, thanks for checking, is I went into intermittent fasting because I'm a cook. I can't really do potatoes for a year personally because then I would lose my job. But I really love intermittent fasting because I love eating whatever I can. But if I give myself an 8-hour window, there's only so much time I have to eat the food. And so I can't really get that many calories in. So that's something that I found was really effective to working with my lifestyle as well. But really for me, I didn't even think of alcohol as having calories, and I never counted them. So that was something for me. I was just like, when you Google how many calories are in a beer or something, and I'd be counting my calories and then rewarding myself with a six-pack and not even being like it's a liquid. Yeah. So for me, that was sort of the main thing that helped me lose the weight. Thanks for checking.
That's great. And I'm definitely not someone to say like my way is the best way, my way is the only way, whatever. I don't care if that's what works for you, then that's great. I don't think anyone should do it any particular way. Like. Yeah, no, but it's just, I think a lot of it is just changing how you view food, because I totally agree with the ideas of food addiction, where I was just going, no, I need to eat this and have this at this time, instead of reevaluating it and just going, okay, I don't need to eat 3 times a day, have a big hearty meal. And we've got so many traps where they say like breakfast is the most important meal, and now they're saying no, it's not. You should skip breakfast, and there's just a lot of different ways, but it's just about reviewing food and throwing out all the old ideas that you grew up with, where you've got to eat this and at that time in this way. Yeah, we've been. Oh, sorry, you got a question.
I've got a question here.
Hi, I just wanted to find out. You say for a year you've been just living on potatoes. What did you have for breakfast, supper, lunch? Can you clarify that? Because I can't believe it.
Potatoes are edible at all times of the day and night. I didn't have anything in particular that I had for any particular meal. I just ate potatoes. We don't have to, no particular food that you eat has to be replaced with any other particular food. It's a similar question like when someone says, I want to go vegan, but I like egg and bacon for breakfast. What am I going to do? Well, eat something else.
Rice, paper, bacon. Rice, paper, bacon. It's the way to go.
Rice, paper, bacon, So yeah, I would do, like, for example, maybe at a night time I would make a big pot of mashed potato, and then I've got mashed potato for every meal the next day. And then I might make a couple of trays of baked potatoes the next night, and then they're there and ready to go for the following day, and I've got baked potatoes. So yeah, there wasn't a particular way of eating them that I had at any time or for any meal. I just ate potatoes. Yeah. Yeah, good question. The first 2 weeks was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was really, really hard, and it really annoys me when people say, "Oh, hey," they write to me and they say, "Hey, I did my own Spud-Fit challenge and it was great and it was easy and I lost all this weight and woohoo!" And
You heard it here first, guys.
Yeah, it was super hard for me. It was really, really hard, to the point where after about a week and a half, just thinking about potatoes made me like.
Yeah.
but yeah, after about 2 weeks, it got easier, and then I sort of got in a groove, and I just got through the year, and it was okay. But yeah, everyone's different. Everyone experiences it differently. Yeah. Sorry, say again. How many kilos did I lose? I consumed. Sorry, I couldn't hear that. Yeah, that was. I didn't really track it. I just ate as much as I felt like whenever I felt like it, and it just. I just ate potatoes. Yeah.
Now you're making it sound really appealing. That sounds great.
Yeah, and the only way that I know about how much I ate was I know some days I ate not very much, some days I ate a lot, and but I was buying potatoes by the box, by a 15-kilo box at a time, and just from that I was able to work out that it was around average about 3.5 kilos a day. But yeah, I'm guessing some days I probably had 1 kilo, some days I probably had 6 kilos. You know, it's just depending on what's going on and how much I felt like eating. But yeah, I don't think you need to aim for any particular amount. You just eat as much as you feel like whenever you feel like it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the question was if you need to take.
I just wondered if you had to take any B12 supplements. Vegans quite often have to take B12 supplements.
Yeah, that's the only thing I supplemented, B12. Yeah, just like any vegan diet, you should probably supplement B12. So that's all I did. And in theory, if you grew your own organic potatoes and you didn't do an amazing job of washing all the dirt off, then there should be some B12 in the dirt, and you should be okay. But that's not something I wanted to experiment with, so I just took some B12. That's pretty easy. I just have a little spray bottle, and I do it once a week, and that's enough. Yeah.
Just eat a teaspoon of dirt once a week as well and get your
B12. Oh,
yeah.
You might.
The natural, non-supplemented.
Yeah. That's sometimes I go to the park and I just. Another.
After a year of just potatoes, I'm wondering what a typical day is like for you now, like eating meals and.
Yeah, well, most meals still have potatoes in them.
Is it 3 meals a day, or is it just lunch and dinner?
I just eat as much as I feel like whenever I feel like it. That's all it is. Usually I probably end up having 4 meals. I'd say that'd be most of the time. But if I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like breakfast, like you were saying, I don't have it. If I don't feel like it, then I don't have it. And notice I say if I feel like. It's not about hunger. I'm not waiting until I get hungry. I eat whenever I feel like eating. And if I'm eating because I'm bored, so what? I'm going to eat. So if I don't feel like breakfast or lunch or whatever, I skip it. It's no big deal. But most of the time I have breakfast, lunch, and then when I get home from work, and then dinner. So 4 meals a day. And yeah, most meals have potatoes in them. My favourite meal is I get frozen spinach from Aldi. So I feel bad about talking about this next to a really good chef, but frozen spinach from Aldi and a can of baked beans and on top of 2 baked potatoes, microwave, done. That's my favourite meal.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It would have been a pretty quick cooking demo if that's what I did. You'd be here for about 4.5 minutes and see you later. Another question over here. Yeah, if you've got a big voice or the microphone's on the way.
How did you know you had a food addiction?
That was it was a long story, but long story short, I tried to lose weight my whole life, and I'd done every diet you could think of, and I was always very good at losing weight and then putting it back on. And there's one particular story which led to this one, was that I did a really good month, lost a lot of weight, and then I decided at the end of the month to reward myself with a slice of pizza. And of course, as an alcoholic who quits alcohol for a month, rewards himself with 1 drink, that's a recipe for disaster. So I didn't have 1 slice of pizza. I had a whole family-sized pizza and a tub of vegan Ben & Jerry's and a 2-litre Coke, and went crazy. And then the next day I realised I was feeling sorry for myself in the afternoon, grabbed a beer from the fridge, sat on the couch, and I can remember the moment, cracked the beer as I sat down, and I went, oh, I'm treating food exactly the way an alcoholic would treat this beer that's in my hand. And that was the beginning of it for me. And, a lot of people would say food addiction is not a thing, it doesn't exist or whatever, but to me, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, and you should treat it that way, Yeah.
I think it's a really powerful thing to take away. Like, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, well, if the behaviour matches, if the behaviour of a food addict matches the behaviour of an alcoholic, then why not call it addiction? It doesn't matter if it's the same mechanism or if it's a psychological problem versus a chemical problem or whatever. The behaviour is the same, so treat the behaviour the same way. So, yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to do it slowly. So the first thing I introduced was just broccoli. I wanted to keep it, hey puppy. I wanted to. We don't eat animals here. You can relax.
Yeah, chill out, mate.
But, I didn't. I wanted to. I wanted to keep it really simple and plain. So I added broccoli in first. Did that, just potatoes and broccoli for a few days.
Is that what you broke it with?
I had like it was a national televised.
Yeah, I remember. But
thing,
I remember being like, "That's what he broke it with."
Yeah.
Out of all, like, if I couldn't eat anything for a year, I'd have like piles of food ready. What was
Honestly, I did not care one single bit about what I ate. So there was a catering company that was catering the breakfast, and it was a friend of mine, so I just said, just feed me whatever looked best on TV and try and get your business a boost. So I had that for my first meal, and then after that I went back to just potatoes and broccoli, and then I added in tomato, and then I added in bananas, and now a typical day would involve broccoli, spinach, beans, rice, bananas, whatever, things like that, and potatoes, obviously, yeah. So I keep it pretty simple. Yeah, I eat fruit. I love mangoes, grapes, oranges, yeah. Nothing wrong with fruit, yeah.
Thank you. We might just leave the questions here. We're definitely we're just plating up. Just one volunteer a bit short, so it's taking a bit longer, but please stay so you can have a little taste while we're just finishing up plating that up. Andrew, are you going to be around in the speaker's tent?
Yeah, there's a tent just over here. There's a row of tents, and then there's another one behind that, the speaker's tent. I'll go there. So
and Zach, will you be there too, or you have other duties on?
Well, I wanted to get a beer, but now I feel really bad just talking about it.
I'll have a beer with you after.
You might find Zach in the bar if you want to talk to him. Andrew will be in the speaker's tent. So please go and see him if you want to have any personal questions as well. Really, thank you for all your questions.
And then come back here and see Adam. Adam, put your hand up.
Yes, because we're going to pack this up, and then Adam Guthrie will come and show you more delicious vegan food and share some of his story with you. So that we're really excited about that. Thank you so much, both of you, for showing us all we can do with potatoes. We will come around, give you a little tasting, and thanks. Give them, please, a thank you. Well, thank you, applause. Good. Remember, your plates are compostable, like all servingware of all our stallholders at the festival. Running a close to zero event zero waste event as possible as you can. So if you can dispose any of those plates and cutlery in the compost bins, the green compost bins, that would be great. And hopefully we'll see you back here in half an hour for the next demo. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Well done, mate.